Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Ladder, thoughtful conversations on leadership, growth, and long-term perspective with your host, Stephen Lee Thomas. Each episode features thoughtful conversations with leaders and operators about growth, decision-making, and what it really looks like to build a meaningful life as your career evolves. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show, Beyond the Corporate Ladder. Today, I am joined by Dwight Dillon-Seminario. On the show, I'm excited to get to chat with him on the show. I'm excited to have you guys listen to him. We got to talk the other day a little bit. And really he's helping people with this passive income stream. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody. And that's why we connected, we chatted a little bit, and I was like, I got to have you on the show, man. So Dwight, thank you so much for coming. Can you give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you're doing today?
Yeah, and thank you for having me, Stephen. It's a pleasure. So yeah, I mean, I did, I've been doing the same thing now for over 10 years, which is helping professionals who are capped out professionally build passive income to get their time back with their family, right? And before that, though, totally like different thing at all. Like I was a professional jazz trombonist working on cruise ships and a musician, and that was like my thing, my focus, my whole world. Sometimes events come into your life where you have to like reprioritize everything. And that was the passing of my dad. He was kind of the catalyst of me wanting to become a musician, and so when he passed away, I just was thinking like, you know what? My life needs to go in a new direction now, and I'm not one to shy away from reinventing myself, and so all the ducks lined up for those in your audience who are faith driven. God just told me take a left, and I followed.
I love it. I love it. So you are no longer full-time dedicated to being a professional musician or in the education space, but you still do some education, right?
I do, yeah, yeah, yeah. A few years ago, a church friend of mine approached me. I wasn't looking to get back into education, and it was like one of those funny, just nonchalant questions over lunch. Like, by the way, because he's the athletic director at a Christian school nearby. He's like, hey, by the way, like, we're looking for just a part-time person to fill this music teacher spot, this band teacher spot. Do you know anybody? And I told him I didn't, because I honestly didn't have that many friends who were in the music education space. But I was curious because it just had been a while since I'd been in the classroom and teaching. It's like one of the things about being a professional musician, not on a cruise ship but on land, is you don't just do that.
Hmm.
Like everybody teaches and plays, and I was just curious. So I applied for the job out of curiosity. It was a couple times a week. I'm like, I think I might be able to fit that in. We'll see. It was like one of those, kind of things where I showed up, and it was classic interview kind of thing, but I was completely detached. Like, I could do this, I could not, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but everything that they showed me just brought back a lot of like nostalgic feelings of, conducting a band and being in that kind of environment and all that stuff. And I was just like, I think this would be fun. So yeah, I got into it more of just like this would be fun. I like being around music. So yep.
Awesome. Okay, so let's bridge this gap right now.
Mhm.
You described a scenario where you kind of had to look around and be like, like, where do I need to go? Right. And for those that are faith-based, you had that message, right, from God. It's like hard left.
Yeah.
And so what did that transition look like? Like, what were those steps that led you to the ability to go apply for a job just out of curiosity, no pressure, like, man, I gotta land this thing because I can't put food on my table.
Um, Gosh, it was a bunch of different steps. I guess I'll give you the broad strokes because so one is like I don't really like I have such a bias towards action that I don't really care about like what's gonna come next. I'm not that calculated at all. right? I'm
Okay.
more just like, what's the next step? This feels right. And if it's scary, then that even pushes me more to go like, if it's scary, I probably should do that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my my highest priority, and the way that I answer this is probably not going to connect with a lot of people who are like, give me ABC. That's just not how my brain works, right? So this is going to be a little bit more like trust your gut kind of thing, but with some, steps for those people who like, action steps. So, um, when I was on the cruise ships, I made a very terrifying decision right after my dad passed away, and I was like, I can't be a musician anymore. This is not going to work, right? And all I wanted to do was be an entrepreneur, but of course, that doesn't happen overnight. Um, so I decided to quit ships with no plan B. Terrifying, like totally scared. I mean, I was able to live with my mom for a little while, so it wasn't like I was on my own, and she fed me and put a roof over my head, all the kind of stuff. But I'm 32 years old, man. Like, can't be living with mom for that long. And so I quit ships just out of like complete like I have to figure this out. I'm done being on ships and just being in literally in a sea of mediocrity because that's what it was. So for me, it was always like my my kind of like decision making compass is like, is this going to help me grow or is this going to help me be in the same place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always
Mm-hmm.
making a decision based on what do I want my future self. And if anything, I have a really good story. If it totally blows up in my face, I will literally choose the story over security
That's
every
awesome.
single day,
I love
right?
it.
Which
Yeah.
which not a lot of people can, stomach that, but that's just how I'm built, right? So so first decision was, am I going to stay on ships? No, I'm going to go back and I'm going to invest in some. I invested in an entrepreneurship course. It was like $2,000. I had saved up some money, and that was like half of my savings. But I'm like, I'm going to do this, right? And so I did that while living with my mom, which was useful and very convenient. Not everybody gets that kind of thing. And then as my bank account went into like the negative, I was like, okay, I got to make some money. So, and so I decided to drive for Uber and Lyft for a little while just to like pay the bills. By the way, I hate driving, and this was Los Angeles. So
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it did bring me in, like a consistent stream of, income, and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, hey, get in the car, do my thing for 6 hours, right? So I was doing that while, and then during that process, that's where I was just going, out and about in LA and doing my thing, meeting people, right? Um, and I met up with somebody who was like, "Hey, you should come and go to my office. We have this event about how money works." And I was like, "Yeah, sounds good." So I went, and an
Because
hour
it would be a
later,
good story, right? You went because it's a good story, right?
that's a part of it. Yeah, I was like, I got nothing better going on, honestly. But I was also like on the cruise ships. I was reading a lot of books on how money worked. I was hungry for it. I was
Hmm.
looking for like I need to figure this wealth equation out, right? I was looking for it, and I was literally like praying like I just want to work with somebody who can teach me how to like you know make millions in a passive way. And then and so God showed up, and one phone call led to another, and I got an invitation to go to an event, and I came out of that event, and I'm just like, I'm in. Like, this sounds awesome. You guys know more than me. Teach me, right? And so that was really like the launch of the current platform and business that I'm in now. And
Hmm.
by the way, like going into financial services with a stutter my whole life, which everybody said no to me for my first year because I was so nervous about talking to people about money. So I had that not going for me,
Uh-huh.
right? And I also looked like a musician. I literally had no left front tooth going into that office. So, I looked like a ska musician that had a hobby as a hockey player, right? So that you didn't have that going for me either. So it was seriously like an uphill climb. But I had a lot of support around me in a community, and I just kept showing up, you know, um, and so 10 years later, right? Now 4 years ago, that's when my friend approached me, and like I I'm always gonna do things in my life that bring me joy, right? And so being around music brings me joy. And again, that was a serendipitous moment too, where I was like, a couple times a month, and I wasn't looking for it, right? It was just one of those things where I'm like, this would make a good story. And now we're talking about it, you know? So, yeah, it's really just like I really do lean on not my own guidance a majority of the time.
Hmm.
But I'm also like, I mean, I'm married, right? So whenever I come up with, an idea, I ask my wife like, what am I not seeing here? And she'll make a list of things. I'm just like, yeah, that's true.
Or
Right?
you're like, yeah, but, and you just,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So, I'm a very like action oriented, let's just see what's going to happen,
Hmm. Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
person. But it does have to make sense, and I do make sure like one thing I don't do is I don't ask people for advice that don't have the life that I want. I just stopped
Sure.
doing
Yeah.
that. And I really only like I'll ask my wife. She knows that I'm kind of, nuts when it comes to making decisions. I'll ask her just for like because she does think many steps ahead, right? And so she's like my guidance because she'll see things that I don't, right? I still might do them anyway, which, she's married to me and she knows this. But other than that, I don't ask for too many people for guidance because outside of, like my entrepreneur colleagues, because like, they make decisions based on the future instead of saying comfortable. So
Right.
that's
Right. Right.
where I'm
Right.
at. Yeah.
Man, there's a few threads in there I want to chat about.
Mhm.
So one of them, I think a theme in there for you has been like grit. Okay. It was not, nobody handed anything to you. It
Right.
was showing up every day and like I'm committed to the journey.
Yeah.
Right. Is that something that you learned along the way is just to stick with something long enough and show up and look for the answers to those questions?
Yeah, I mean, my well, to kind of, I guess like my first real influence when it just came to grit was my dad. He taught me discipline. Um, I can remember very, very clearly, and when I went by it 20 years later, I'm just like that hill. When I was like 8 years old, there was this, we were going on bike rides, and there was this like incline behind a gas station that I just remember I was going up and up and up, and I just wanted to quit. Like my legs were just on fire, and my dad's
Hmm.
like, keep going, you're almost there, you're almost there. And then I got over it, right? And I mean literally like this thing's tiny, as an adult, but looking back, back then it was huge. And I was crying after that, like it was so painful, but I did it, right? And
So
so
you
my
learned you
dad,
can do hard things.
I learned that I could do hard things at a very, very early age despite it being painful,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, learning how to be a jazz trombonist, I mean, that was an uphill climb. Like, hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life up to that point, right? And I became a professional at it. But I mean, there were like so many, like, I just sounded so bad for so long. And I started playing jazz when I was a teenager, and then finally out of college, like early mid 20s, I finally thought I started to sound kind of good. So 10 years of just being like, ugh, I still can't play the way that I want to, but I just kept going, right? And so I took those same success habits and applied it into entrepreneurship. And I mean, and it's really the same thing. You just have to like know if you really want something and if it really aligns with you that you're just gonna suck for a long time and then you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Brunson.
Sure.
He's big in the marketing space. And
Hmm.
so I was listening to one of his audiobooks. I was driving down to LA and back this last Saturday, and so it was like probably the third or fourth time I listened to the book. And I can't remember who it is he said he learned this from, but somebody told him the very first time you do something, you're gonna suck. You're gonna suck really bad at it. And if you do it enough, you suck less and less and less until you're actually good at it. And so
Yeah.
I love that. And I try to with my children explain that concept, not tell them like, oh, you suck. But to your point, my daughter is we tell her often, you can do hard things. Like you can
Yeah.
do hard things. She's 7 and she's got that, it's hard. I don't want to do it. I'm like, nope, you can do hard things. You can do hard
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
So I love that mentality there. Another thing I picked up on in your journey was um, you didn't have it like fully mapped and you learned to listen to your intuition. And now I can tell you, I'm a very like, let me build out this plan and follow it. And I've had to learn that a plan is really nothing more than an idea. And where when I learned to let go of I have to hit my plan exactly, but I just and then started going with I just need an idea and the things will start to fall in place. That was huge. Like it was that like a learning moment for you, or was that just always who you were?
No, it's actually something that I built in a certain chapter of my life. So when I was like later in my years in college, something happened to me where I was living in the dorms, and all of a sudden, I was a resident advisor for any of you who ever lived in the dorms, and I got fired from that job through just like a technicality. So all of a sudden, my social circle completely got flipped upside down. I moved across the street.
Hmm.
One of my best friends happened to be living across the street, and I was the couch guy for like 3 to 6 months. And all of a sudden, the people who I used to hang out with just weren't around me anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to make new friends. So through just a series of internet searches, I ended up coming across like all these dating coaches and people teaching you like how to like meet women and pick up women.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I was I they were literally like I had so basically, long story short, for the next 10 years, I went on this journey of really like learning how to have ultimate choice with women in my life, but also with my social skills. Like very intentionally, like I invested a few $1,000s honestly in like dating coaches because I had no idea when girls like me, and I had no idea how to like make friends really outside of going to different events, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Those dating coaches, specifically one, really helped me build this assertiveness muscle so that like he so that basically I would just, through sheer repetition and just like learning how to get no after no after no, like, going up to women in like the most impossible situations. Like imagine, six dudes going up to like, and there's one woman there, and I can't tell you how many, at least half a dozen times, um, one of the guys would be like, "You want me to go outside and punch you in the face right now?" I'm not even joking, right? And I would just be like, "Sure, let's go. It'll make a good story." Right? And and like one time I literally remember I was in this bar and he's like, "You want me to punch you in the face?" And I'm just like, "Sure." And I closed my eyes and I expected it to happen. And then his
Uh-huh.
girlfriend came in and she's like, "Stop." Right? Again, not everybody's built like this, okay? But I thought to myself like the worst thing that could happen is he gets kicked out,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so I've never been punched in the face. And so, but just putting myself, repeatedly in positions where like I'm not gonna die, right? And just it was literally like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I used to not be this way, but I just decided to build the muscle of like, let's find out, right?
Okay.
Let's find out, you know? And there's always a story. The like what happens if you don't find out, and I also lived in that land for too long.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
after a
So
certain point
so
I'm
so
just
what
like,
happens if you don't find out? I want to say that again because
yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When
Huge.
you
What
don't
happens if you
find
don't find
out,
out?
is you're just in the same place. And then
Yeah.
you kick yourself going like, what if? I don't live in what if land anymore. I haven't for a while.
Yeah. There's only one way to get from where you're at to where you want to be,
Yeah.
and that is by making a decision to do something different than what you're doing
Do
today.
something different. Right.
That's it. And so then the last little piece of this I want to hang out in is something that it sounds like you same story, but you learned to do things quickly, it sounds like, and learned what would happen.
Yeah.
And so I was at a conference one time, and there was someone from the Air Force, and she was telling the story. And I might get it wrong a little bit, but basically, there's this idea that in again, if you're it might get a little bit wrong. If you're in the military, don't bash me if I get it wrong. But basically, this idea of um, if you can get like 80% of the way, then you need to take action because that 20% is really going to slow you down, and it's way more valuable to fall on your face and learn from that than it is to just stick where you're at and strive for that perfection. I mean,
Yep.
that's probably another story or no, the story you've got, another lesson you've learned is how valuable it is to just let me just try it. Let me just try it, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, so many things. Like now it's just kind of a reflex. Like I get an idea, right? And I'll just be like, let's just see what happens, right? Um, and and like the thing is I'm not special with this. It's something that it's a muscle that you can build if you're around the right people who encourage that kind of bias for taking action, right? But if you're
Right.
around people who just, are used to staying, playing it safe and over calculating, and I have to have it all perfect and the right steps. I don't know anybody who's made a plan and has completely stuck to that plan. Like nobody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to transition now to
Uh-huh.
this moment in time. Like your stories have led you to where you're at right now, and now you're helping other people.
Yeah.
How do you help other people write their own story? What is it you're doing to give them that time and freedom back?
Yeah. So, now I'm a part of a platform where, we look for people, specifically, people who are in a point in their life where they just want more, right? Um, the mindset's the most important thing, to tell you the truth, where they're like they know that, they're looking around their life going like, there's got to be more to this, right? And I happen to be a part of a platform that can take that kind of person and show them a very clear cut path of learning entrepreneurship
Hmm.
and building passive income through our training program so that they can just, buy their time back, right? I mean, and people who want more usually takes more money, right? You Good people can do amazing things with, more money. Um, and most of the people that I sit down with, they just want, more time with their family. They want more time to just do things that they want, whether it's like travel or, whatever it is, right? But they just don't own their time because somebody else owns their time because they have a job,
Hmm.
right? Or maybe they have a business that they're a solopreneur, right? And so for the right person, who has that growth mindset and who wants to get better, one of the things that I've always been told, and I take a lot of advice from like Ed Milet,
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
the person who you develop is going to make a certain income, right? And there really is a correlation. Like it's back 10 years ago when I was just a musician, right? Um, my identity and my self-esteem and my self-image was very, very small, right? I just wanted to pay my bills, right? Now, since I've just been around so many wonderful influences, my vision is so much bigger, and the people who I used to be really like intimidated to talk to, now I just see in now I just see as like, hey, like you're just like me, and but I used to not think like that. They really used to like intimidate me a bunch, and my stutter would come out, all these kinds of things, right? But I've talked to enough very successful people who, when you really look under the hood, it's like, oh, you've just been doing this for longer than me. You just had
Hmm.
more no's, right?
And you're not
Um,
scared to get punched in the face. So why not have that conversation, right?
right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And every now and then, like I will still get some hard no's, but I'll tell you. I get that no within the first 5 minutes of the conversation instead of having a 30 minute to an hour conversation.
Awesome. So, are you able to give us an example of what it would look like if someone, in this situation, they've reached this point, they look around and they're like, oh, like there's got to be more. I want to buy my time back. I want more fulfillment. Can you give us an example of what that might look like if you were to kind of walk someone through that?
Yeah. So, what it would look like is, I'll be introduced to them, in some way, shape, and form, or they reach out to me, and then we hop on a Zoom call, and you know, um, we basically just, I connect with them, and we share with them, who we are, what we do, just see if there's a fit, and then we explain to them. Like, I get very, very clear on like their goals and what they really want, because what we do is not a fit for everyone, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then if we find out that it's a mutual fit, then then we plug them into our entrepreneurship training program, and it's a lot of one-on-one coaching, teaching them our system. Our system takes care of everything from like, because we are in financial services, so there's just like any professional in industry, there's some red tape and things like that, right? But then we just teach them our system, and we do, like, I'm in touch with people, like it's kind of like we're dating, honestly. Like, we talk to each other every single day, and it's all like a lot of one-on-one coaching over Zoom. If they live locally, we get together with them, and we very systematically show them how to build a business within our platform, so that you know 12 to 18 months, assuming that they are coachable, we're showing them um, how to replace their income, right? At least that's the idea, right? Um, and I won't go into specifics too much, but those are really like the broad strokes. So it's actually like it's very cookie cutter and very systematic. Like, we literally have a system that's taken all the guesswork out of it. Um, the only thing is whether someone's actually coachable or not, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Whether they
Yeah.
want to do their own thing, or whether they're like, okay, just teach me the next steps. And we have all the next steps. But people are people, and sometimes they want to, be an empty cup, and sometimes their cup gets full. So,
Yeah. They got you. I like what you said there about being coachable. It's not, it's, yeah, you have to be open to changing, again, going back to changing who you are and where you are. And you've got to be open to the things you're doing today are not getting you there. So what is it you got to do?
yeah. Hmm.
So there might be some people listening to this who are like much earlier in their career, maybe they're not a jazz musician on a cruise ship, but earlier in their career. You've made some tough decisions. You've learned how to not be afraid to make those tough decisions. Um, what's something that someone listening earlier on you wish you knew or understood sooner about success?
The more time that you can spend on really like figuring out what you want, and then coupling that with taking massive action, um, the better results you're going to get, right? I spent most of my career kind of like just being fuzzy on what I really wanted. Um, and because I was fuzzy, because I really didn't have a lot of clarity, and like time and time again, I was told like, spend time like on like why do you want to get into entrepreneurship? Really get a lot of clarity, like get so much clarity that like that clarity like is like a burning desire inside of you. It's on, Think and Grow Rich talks about this, right? I think it's like page 36 where they go through, the 6 steps, right? I did not spend enough time doing that because I was so go, 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 take action. So there's a detriment to being so action oriented like me. Although I'm also like 10% of the population. A lot of my friends are like, Dwight, I don't know how you just think things and didn't execute. I'm like, because why not? Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I think like I don't want to say there's a balance, but there's more like a proportion of like, you know, take a little bit of time and get clarity on like what you want, what drives you, what really fires you up, even if that's like an injustice, right? Like what fires you up either like gets you angry or gets you excited. Both are very worthy emotions, right? I mean, it's I was listening to something yesterday where it's like, you read these books that are like, hey, like get yourself into like a really, really, excited place. And it's like most people are not that excited. And so for them to go to like, 5 to 10 is a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe
Uh-huh.
someone's depressed. They're not excited about anything, right? Well, it's like, well, can you go from depressed to angry? It's a little bit, like depressed is angry is like right? But anger is way more useful than being depressed, and that's just one notch above, right? So whatever you got to do to get yourself fired up and have some like, and the more clear, by the way, the better, right? Like even just this very podcast, what we're talking about, I really believe it's come from me just spending a lot more time than I used to reflecting, not just doing, but actually
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
taking action and then course correcting, which I didn't do enough of. I was just like, just keep going, which slowed me down, honestly, right?
Okay.
And so now I'm spending a lot more intentional time on course correcting, which has really helped me out. Like when things aren't going, I will reach out to my coach and she'll give me, coaching. And so I guess coupled with that is like knowing you're not being coachable. Because when you're not being coachable, you're not open to growth. Over a year
Mm-hmm.
ago, I
Mm-hmm.
realized, oh my gosh, I'm not as coachable as I thought, right? And honestly, like that is the secret sauce right there is coachability. Like just like most people suck at reaching out for help. They think like they know everything, which is a very dangerous place to be if you're growth oriented. So now I've just realized like I if I ever feel like, oh, I'm getting it, I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I'm like, I don't have it, I'm getting it, but I always know that there's more, right? And so if I was just like more coachable, more of the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Coupled with the action that I already take, right? I think I would be further along than I am now for sure.
Which you've already accomplished quite a bit. It's been amazing story there. So, Dwight, thank you really, man. I really appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to
you.
hang out with me today,
It's been fun.
share your stories, fun to listen to. Obviously, it's made a difference of where you're at. So, I really appreciate you taking the time. Somebody listening, they want to connect with you, they maybe want to work with you. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just reach out to me on Instagram at Dwight Paul Dillon, right? DWIGHT PAULDILLON. It's my first, middle, and last name. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Easy enough. Well, for everybody listening, thank you for joining to the next episode of Beyond the Corporate Ladder. And Dwight, thank you so much again for taking the time to hang out with us today.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks for spending time with me today on Beyond the Corporate Ladder. If this conversation resonated with you and you feel like you have a perspective that could add value for others, you can learn more about being a guest at beyondthecorporateladder.com. Thanks so much for listening.